Batani and will be directing the proceedings of today's program. Today marks the beginning of an important collaborative dialogue on taxation and the sharing of insights within our tax communities. As conversations around tax bills continue to evolve, we have already seen several proposed changes, more especially those that were highlighted from the 2026 budget speech. From the adjusted top earner threshold to the proposed corporate tax rate, and even discussions around reducing the zero-rated list. But that's just only the tip of the iceberg. Ladies and gentlemen, today we would like to move beyond what's already in the table. We want to hear your voices. We want to hear your real-life experiences, your challenges, and most importantly, we want to know of your practical ideas. What else should be proposed to make our tax policies more effective and more inclusive for all? Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with the program, I would like to begin by acknowledging and extending a warm welcome to the Acting President and Minister of Finance, Mr. Ndaba Nkosinathi Gaolathe. We welcome you. The Chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance and Estimates, Honorable Victor Poloholo, and members of the committee, we welcome you. The Deputy Clerk at the National Assembly, Ms. Kebafenze Helen Kishajwang, thank you. Deputy Secretary Macroeconomic Policy, Mr. Batani Matakani from the Ministry of Finance, holding in for the Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Tsukuluho Alex Khanatano. Mr. Batani, we welcome you. And all MEC executives from the Ministry of Finance present here today, we welcome you.
Thank you, Ivy. I will continue with the introductions of our guest of honor. Amongst our midst is the Acting Commissioner General, Mr. Podiso Piliso Valasia. We'd also want to recognize Chief Executive Officers here present. By whatever nomenclature you are known, are you General Manager, are you Managing Director, we acknowledge you. Without you, we wouldn't be here. We also would like to recognize members of the civil society whose input to this process cannot be overemphasized. It's very important as they are the captains of industry. They know what the people feel, they know what the people want, so they help shape government policy. We recognize you, the business community. Business community, our valued customers at the Revenue Service. We recognize you all esteemed taxpayers, esteemed tax administrators here present. We recognize you. Of the Unified Revenue Service. For those who do not know, the Unified in the Revenue Service is the unification of the old Customs Department and the old Department of Taxes. That is why we have the Unified Revenue Service. And incidentally, the laws that will be discussed today, some seek to unify some aspect of the taxes that we administer. And those that know me know that there's a dicta that I am wont to share when I'm appearing before the public, and it's by the duo of Richard Baird and Eric Zolt. And this is what they say. They say no one likes taxes. People do not like to pay them. Governments do not like to impose them. But taxes are necessary both to finance the desired public spending in a non-inflationary way and also to ensure that the burden of paying for such spending is fairly distributed. So we believe today's engagement would provide somewhat of a test to these competing interests and the burdens that taxes impose on all of us. Ivy, over to you.
Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Bahaisu, once again, ke a le dumedisa, and thank you so much for gracing us with your presence for today's program. So now, as we dive deeper into the program, let's just get started right away. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to introduce an esteemed expert in tax and custom field. Please join me in welcoming the Acting Commissioner General of Botswana Unified Revenue Service, Acting Commissioner Mr. Podiso P. Valencia, for the opening remarks.
The Acting President and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Minister, Members of Parliament, senior government officials, captains of industry, members of the media, fellow citizens, good afternoon. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to welcome all of you to this Tax Pitso, both who are present here and those joining us virtually. This gathering brings together government leadership, business, academia, citizens, and it reflects the importance of the moment we find ourselves as a nation. Your presence here is a clear demonstration that the conversation of taxation on national development and on our collective future is one that belongs to all of us. Let me begin plainly. There are two truths we must confront today. Botswana is faced with financing a significantly larger share of its development from domestic revenue, and many citizens and businesses remain skeptical both about our taxation itself and about the ability of the Revenue Service to administer it fairly, efficiently, and consistently. Both of these realities are valid, and both must be addressed together. The 2026 budget speech marks a decisive shift from reliance to responsibility. It signals a transition away from a model where mineral revenues and public spending carried the economy, towards one where productivity, private sector growth, and domestic revenue mobilization become the foundation of national development. This shift is being driven by reality. The performance of the mineral sector has become increasingly volatile. Global demand is shifting, and fiscal buffers are no longer what they once were. The cost of delay, of not reforming and not adjusting, is rising. Ladies and gentlemen, the question before us, therefore, is not whether we should act. It is whether we are prepared to act together. This transition cannot be carried by government alone. It cannot be carried by the Minister of Finance on its own, nor can the Revenue Service carry this on its own. Revenue mobilization must now become a shared national responsibility, a shared ethic, and a shared commitment. At the end of the third quarter of the current financial year, the country faced a revenue shortfall of 1.5 billion pula. This is not an abstract figure. It represents services delayed, infrastructure deferred, and opportunities postponed. Through focused execution, that gap has now been reduced significantly, with over 1.3 billion recovered within a short period. This demonstrates that when systems improve, when effort is aligned, and when compliance and unity is strengthened, results naturally follow. However, the broader picture remains clear. Botswana's value-added tax gap is estimated at approximately 40%, meaning a substantial portion of revenue that should be funding national priorities is not being realized. No system, no law, and no institution can fully address this on their own. It requires a collective shift in how we as a nation engage and look at tax. You would agree, therefore, that paying tax must be understood for what it truly is. It is not merely a legal obligation. It is a contribution. It is our civic duty. It is a practical expression of patriotism that sustains public service and enables national progress. At the same time, that expectation must be matched by the revenue service. There is work to be done. There have been system gaps, integration challenges, inconsistencies in processes, delays in resolution, and weakness in governance. At times, there's also been a perception that the tax system is complex or uneven in its application. These are not issues to be explained away. These are issues to be resolved, because a tax administration that is not trusted will not be supported, and one that is not supported will not perform. There is therefore a moment, this is a moment of reset, not rhetoric, but of action. A clear, structured, and measurable program of renewal is being undertaken. In the 2026-27 financial year, the Revenue Service will pursue a focused roadmap anchored on 4 pillars. The first is closing revenue leakages by strengthening system integration, tightening controls, and ensuring that every transaction is accounted for and every declaration is verified. The second is full digitalization, including the use of artificial intelligence and advanced data analytics to enhance transparency, predictability, and reduced discretion. The third is simplification and speed, so that compliance becomes easier, processes are streamlined, and turnaround times are reduced. The fourth is governance and trust. Through stronger accountability, improved decision-making, and greater transparency. This here is our commitment to you, Lile Botswana. In the financial year that we are going into, the Revenue Service has been assigned a revenue target of approximately 65.1 billion pula. This will finance about 70% of government expenditure and account for 80% of total government revenue. In practical terms, the functioning of government will depend largely on what is collected, and what is collected will depend largely on what is declared and paid. At present, Botswana tax collection to GDP ratio stands at approximately 13%. The target is to raise this to at least 18% by the end of the next financial year and to exceed 20% thereafter. This is not unprecedented. Countries such as Rwanda, Georgia, Vietnam have achieved similar transitions through a combination of accelerated digitalization, consistent enforcement, and, most importantly, a strong culture of compliance. What these countries demonstrate is not perfection in systems, but clarity in national conduct. They made a deliberate choice to fund their own development, and over time, that choice became culture. Botswana must now confront itself in the same mirror. The current level of revenue mobilization reflects how we, as a nation, participate in national building. It reflects our collective practice and declaration, compliance, and contribution. Fellow citizens, we must agree that the national budget does not speak in abstract terms. It commits to specific, tangible projects. It commits to expanding and upgrading water infrastructure across the country, including the Lobatse Water Master Plan, sanitation improvements in Kanye, upgrades to major treatment plants, and new water supply schemes in several villages. These are not concepts. They are pipes in the ground that communities receive water through, and households whose daily lives improve on its basis. The budget also prioritizes larger scale energy investment, including expansion of the national transmission grid and continued rollout of solar generation capacity. These are not policy statements. They are megawatts of the grid, factories that can operate, and businesses that can grow. In addition, the budget provides targeted financing for citizen enterprises and small businesses, supporting economic transformation and job creation. These are not policy intentions. They are businesses started, they are jobs created, and they are livelihoods sustained. If revenue is not realized at the level required, these do not proceed as planned. The projects that I've just been talking about will slow down. Delivery will be delayed, and most sadly, opportunities will be lost. Not because there is no commitment to deliver, but because the resources are simply not there. The era of relying on mineral revenues to carry national development is now behind us. That chapter has closed. There is no fallback. There's no substitute. There is only what is declared and what is paid, shaped entirely by our collective approach to tax. And in this moment, that approach towards tax is no longer a technical matter. It is a national responsibility for all of us who love this country. No country moves from low to high revenue mobilization through systems alone. It happens when compliance becomes a norm, when contribution is expected, and when participation is consistent across society. Between April 2026 and March 2027, the national assignment is therefore clear. Every business must declare fully. Every professional must account honestly. Every trader must transact with the system. Every employer must meet their payee and VAT obligations in full. Every citizen must move from partial compliance to full compliance. Because when compliance is incomplete, the consequences are real. The burden shifts to those who already comply, the pace of development slows, and the fairness is undermined. Tax compliance must therefore be understood as a national culture, as a consistent standard, and as a shared practice. Because in the end, development is not funded by policy. It is founded by its people and the resources that they contribute. The question before Botswana is therefore a simple one. Are we prepared to contribute fully? If the answer is yes, then the outcome is clear as well. The project will be delivered, businesses will grow, jobs will be created, and Botswana will move forward with confidence. If not, then progress slows, plans remain plans, and potential remains unrealized. That, my fellow citizens, is reality. And that, my fellow citizens, is a choice made every day, in every transaction, in every declaration, and in every decision to comply fully. The bills currently before the nation represent a significant step forward in modernizing the tax framework. They are by nature complex and far-reaching, and they are being introduced alongside an ambitious revenue agenda. Their implementation is therefore being approached with a deliberate and structured manner, with careful attention to system readiness on both the part of the revenue service and taxpayers and traders. A comprehensive capacity building program is already underway, supported by targeted engagements, system familiarization, and practical guidance to ensure that compliance is achievable and sustainable in practice. In this context, implementation timelines have been aligned with the operational preparedness. VAT is on remote services is scheduled to commence on the 1st of April 2026, with the system development completed and testing currently underway with selected taxpayers. The income tax framework is planned for implementation on 1st July 2026, and between the passage of the legislation and that date, engagement will be intensified to support readiness and address practical considerations. Where implementation concerns arise, these will be addressed proactively through public communication platforms and structured stakeholder engagement. In parallel, regulations for these proposed bills are being developed with the July 2026 commencement date in mind, ensuring that the overall framework is coherent, practical, and implementable. And when necessary, there will be consideration for a phased approach to allow for sufficient preparedness by the revenue service and taxpayers. For the electronic VAT invoicing system, a draft technical design has been completed, setting out the minimum functional and technical requirements for the solution. An expression of interest will be issued shortly to invite the market to propose solutions that meet and, where possible, exceed these baseline requirements with the objective of securing a robust, future-ready system for Botswana. The implementation timeline will be guided by the procurement process, contract finalization, and subsequent system development and piloting, with current indication pointing towards a likely rollout of April 2027. The revenue service stands ready. The operational framework is being re-engineered. The processes are being strengthened. The nation is therefore called to rise in equal measure, so that together, this moment becomes a turning point in the building of a new Botswana. Once more, we welcome all of you to this inaugural Tax Pitso, and we encourage you to engage openly, frankly, without hesitation or concern, so that together, a stronger, fairer, and more effective tax system can be built for this, our beautiful country, Botswana. I thank you. Pula.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Valashia, for those good remarks. as I listened to you, I just saw assignments for you in particular. You have been given a task of collecting 65.1 billion in this upcoming financial year. And these laws that we are here present discussing, they are the enablers to us achieving these ambitious targets that have been given to us. And we cannot overemphasize that if Mr. Gaolathe does not do his job very well, or if you trick him and you cheat yourselves as taxpayers, three eventualities are certain. The government will not be able to finance its public goods, and the sufferers will be our families back at home. Our sufferers also will be children who are not able to go to school or be educated under less than ideal circumstances. So your contribution is very important. And if you don't leverage on these laws, another eventuality is that government will be forced to look elsewhere for funding in terms of borrowing. That naturally has a cost to it of repayment. And there's also the likelihood of an assault to intergenerational equity. The sense of which is that we should not burden generations that are going to come after us with debt. And then the other eventuality, which I believe is in the offing, is the increase to the tax rates. It's a value judgment, the increase in tax rates. It is not resorted to fancifully. And we know the likely costs of changes in tax rates. They affect tax competitiveness of the country. Also, they affect business decisions with what economists say excess burdens or deadweight losses. So with that said, we need you. Mr. Gaolathe says this is a shared national responsibility that all of us have a role to play on. And Ms. Radiwe, I think when she comes and elaborate on the amendments or the reenactments, is that of the value-added tax, because tax designers say the best tax to raise revenue with is VAT, because it's consumption tax and it is thought to be equitable. And one of the issues that I know is in the offing is the reduction to the zero rate list or exemption list. I know one Professor Sibren Norsen, it nauseates him, the exemptions and zero rates in the VAT Act. He says doing that equates VAT to the Swiss cheese in that it has more holes than substance. So we welcome these legislative amendments that seek to broaden the tax base and also lessen the likelihood of hiking tax rates across board. With that, we'll welcome Maxi and give us a song and a half. Thank you.
One, two. Boy, away, hey mama, way, oh mama, Botswana, Botswana, oh mama, Harititi, Riabina, oh mama. Sorry, but I didn't make a copa battle bar back and say, speaker say, Harutu Pina mo staging because. Sorry. Can I turn it? Thank you so much. Selector. Mama we, my barupe. Botswana, Botswana, boy mama. Botswana, Botswana, boy mama. Just mama. Oh, mama. Yeah, mama, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, mama. Oh, mama, mama Ruby, oh, mama, oh, mama, yeah. Yeah. To the part of your Ramapuri. Yeah. Oi, mama. Yeah. Boipuso Hall 1966. Botswana, Botswana, liabiriwa ke ba le phata la makgetho ba re letle go kgetho tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho ka tswetswe le a bidiwa. Selector. Halala viewers, Botswana Unified Revenue Service re kokwanya tsa khatelo pele bagwebi mo Botswana le a bidiwa ke ba le phata la makgetho ba re letle go kgetha batho botle mo Botswana ba ba dirang lona letseno le a bidiwa ke ba le phata la makgetho tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa ke maikarabelo a mokgethi go tla go kgetha ka nako tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa ke maikarabelo a mokgethi ka dinako tse di beilweng. Ka tumetseng le tle le falole dikotlhao sa go duediswa merokotso fa le sa kgetha ka nako batho ka bongwe ka tumetseng le tle le falole dikotlhao sa go duediswa merokotso tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa ke maikarabelo a mokgethi go tla go kgetha ka nako tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa ke maikarabelo a mokgethi ka dinako tse di beilweng bagwebi a re lemogeng go mosola jwa go kgetha lekgetho le disa ditlamelo le tlhabolola le lefatshe Batswana tlhaloganyang tiriso ya lekgetho la lona lekgetho le disa ditlamelo le tlhabolola le Botswana tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa ke maikarabelo a mokgethi go tla go kgetha ka nako. Lekgetho le ya ga dikolo le dipatela mo Botswana le re agela le ditsela le tsa ditlhaeletsanyo le re tlisetsa le metsi le metlakase le tse dingwe tse dintsi tse di tlhabololang matshelo tlang le duele lekgetho we le a bidiwa 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 ke maikarabelo a mokgethi go tla go kgetha ka nako. Halala viewers Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the incredible Mexi Sudumedi, our very own true icon. I think that was a masterpiece. It's not only entertaining, but it's very informative. Ladies and gentlemen, ariduele lekgetho. For housekeeping rules before we get back into the program, you are noted that today we have a hybrid session. We have people watching us online, and we're also on live on our Facebook page. That is the Ministry of Finance Facebook page, as well as the BURS Facebook page. Ladies and gentlemen, now it is an honor to welcome on stage a leader committed to deploying smarter systems and building strong institutional capacity to drive effective revenue mobilization. Ladies and gentlemen, for the keynote address, please help me welcome the Acting President and Minister of Finance, Mr. Ndaba Nkosinathi Gaolathe.
May we be seated, please? Miss Mexican saying, Tat. May I acknowledge the presence of Honorable Poloholo, Chairperson of the Finance and Estimates Committee, and other members of the committee and staff of Parliament that I see. May I acknowledge presence of all permanent secretaries that are here today and members of staff of the Ministry of Finance and other ministries, including the pastor. Acknowledge you, Acting BRS Commissioner General, Mr. Boipuso Hall. May I acknowledge all the CEOs here present, Ms. Mbakanyi of Business Botswana, Mr. Khabadiri of Bika, Dr. Gloria Sumulukai of BITPA, Ms. Molatedi of Mbifira, Ms. Tapiwa Masie, Acting CEO of CESA, Mr. Joseph of PEPA. May I acknowledge each one of you here. I see staff of BRS. Each one of you here, I welcome you and I appreciate you. And I can go back home and say, today I met all the taxpayers in Botswana today. A very good afternoon to all of you. A very good afternoon to all of you. It's both an honor and a profound responsibility to stand before you today at this inaugural Tax Pitso, convened under the theme, Shaping Botswana's Future Tax System, a dialogue for fair and sustainable tax reform. This gathering is deliberate, timely, and necessary. It reflects our collective recognition that the future of our nation cannot be shaped in isolation, but must be built through dialogue, through partnership, and through shared responsibility. Let me state from the outset that this Pitso is not a procedural exercise or a symbolic engagement. It's a genuine platform for meaningful consultation. We are here to listen. I am here to listen, to reflect, and to co-create a tax system that is not only technically sound, but is also fair, is efficient, is comparatively low in rates, believe it, and is aligned to the aspirations of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet at a defining moment in Botswana's journey. Our country stands at a crossroads. For decades, our economic model has been anchored on mineral revenues, particularly diamonds. That model has served us well. It has enabled us to build institutions. It has enabled us to expand infrastructure. It has enabled us to improve the lives of many of our citizens. However, that model is now under strain, immense strain, tremendous strain. Declining mineral revenues, global economic uncertainty, and rising demands for social services and infrastructure have placed increasing pressure on our public finances. And as I highlighted in the 2026 budget speech, this is no longer a moment for incremental adjustments. It is a moment for decisive transformation. It's a moment that demands courage over comfort, action over hesitation, and long-term vision over short-term convenience. At the same time, our domestic revenue mobilization, as the Commissioner says, remains below potential. Botswana's tax-to-GDP ratio stands at approximately 13.4%, far below and significantly lower than the African average, let alone comparable economies in our region. This means quite simply that we are not yet mobilizing enough of our own national strength to finance the future we all aspire to. This reality underscores a simple but critical truth that if we are to achieve our shared ambition of becoming a high-income nation, we must increasingly finance our development from within. This requires a tax system that is modern, that is efficient, that is fair, and that is capable of supporting our long-term transformation agenda. I'm fully aware that tax reform touches directly on the livelihoods of our people. It touches on our competitiveness, the competitiveness of our businesses, and on the confidence of our investors. It's not an easy conversation, and indeed it is not meant to be an easy conversation. But the true test of leadership is not in avoiding difficult conversations. It's in confronting them honestly, early, and together. The question before us is not whether tax reform is necessary. The question is whether we undertake it deliberately and responsibly, and we do that now, or whether we defer it and face more painful adjustments in the future. And if we delay, the pressures of our public finances will deepen, service delivery will weaken, and the burden will fall even more heavily on future generations. But if we act now and we act together, we can build a stronger and more resilient Botswana. By way of background, ladies and gentlemen, we are embarking on a path towards a comprehensive review of the country's tax laws with a clear objective to improve efficiency through easing tax administration while strengthening our ability to mobilize our domestic resources. This work has involved the simplification, the modernization, harmonization, and consolidation of administrative provisions currently contained in the Value-Added Tax Act and the Income Tax Act into one single unified piece of legislation, the Tax Administration Act. This consolidation seeks, among other things, to improve tax compliance, to reduce duplication, and to ease the burden placed on our taxpayers in meeting their obligations. The current Income Tax Act, last comprehensively reviewed in 1995, has over time become outdated. It has become inconsistent and increasingly complex due to numerous amendments. These changes have introduced varying terminology, differing drafting styles, and gaps in coherence, which increase the risk of misinterpretation and inefficiency. The current review therefore seeks to simplify and to modernize the law while transferring procedural and administrative provisions into the new tax administration framework. This is not simply a legal reform. It is a structural reset of how we administer taxation in Botswana. Similarly, our current VAT regime was designed for a traditional economy centered on tangible goods and physical services. It is no longer adequately equipped to address the growing digital economy and the increasing prevalence of remote service provision. The proposed VAT bill, therefore, seeks to repeal and reenact the existing law, broadening its scope to include digital products and services, while harmonizing administrative and penalty provisions with the income tax framework under the new Tax Administration Act. In doing so, we are ensuring that our tax system evolves in step with the economy it is meant to serve. As already alluded to, the object of the Tax Administration Bill is to harmonize, is to modernize, is to consolidate provisions relating to the administration of taxes from both the Income Tax Act and the Value-Added Tax. This will facilitate ease of compliance. This will reduce duplication of effort. This will and should improve the overall experience of doing business in Botswana. In essence, we are moving from a fragmented system to a coherent, modern, and citizen-friendly framework. Ladies and gentlemen, the bills currently under consideration, including the amendment of the Customs Act, were published for public access in the Government Gazette of the 15th December 2025. As you are aware, the publication of a bill serves both as a formal notice and as another stage of consultation, since a bill remains a proposal until it is enacted into law. It is for this reason that the Ministry of Finance and BRS deemed it necessary to convene this additional platform, this Tax Pitso, to broaden engagement beyond the consultations conducted during the drafting process and the feedback we have already received after publishing the bill. So this platform is therefore intentional. It is intentional, it is inclusive, and it is targeted, a targeted platform to interrogate these pieces of legislation, to challenge them and to refine them where necessary. And if proceeds well and as planned, these bills will be presented during the current session of Parliament. However, this urgency does not diminish the importance of addressing any critical issues that may arise from our engagement here over the next 2 days. Urgency and consultations are not contradictions. They are both essential to responsible leadership. The income tax bill proposes a modest adjustment in tax rates, and that's only for higher income earners. Modest. Modest. These adjustments are guided by the principle of fairness and ability to pay. At the same time, we are introducing measures that expand the tax base while easing compliance. The introduction of a simplified tax regime for small businesses, and this is designed to support our micro and small enterprises. It's intended to reduce administrative burdens and encourage formalization. The extension of VAT to digital and remote services ensures that emerging areas of economic activity are appropriately captured within our tax system. Furthermore, the introduction of real-time transaction monitoring mechanisms will strengthen compliance and reduce tax evasion. However, ladies and gentlemen, we must confront a fundamental issue that underpins the entire reform process. Trust. Yes, trust. Tax systems do not succeed on legislation alone. They succeed on legitimacy. Citizens and businesses are more willing to comply when they see that the public resources are managed prudently, when they see that service delivery improves, and when they see that governance is exercised with integrity. Conversely, when tax collection is perceived to occur alongside inefficiency or corruption, resistance becomes inevitable. We recognize this reality. This is why these reforms are being pursued alongside efforts to strengthen public financial management, enhance transparency, and close leakages within the government systems. We are determined to ensure that every pula, every tebe is collected and works for the people of this country, visibly, tangibly, and with integrity. Every pula, Mr. Governor, I forgot to greet you, and I'm sorry. I cannot talk about pulas and tebes and not at the same time greet and acknowledge the Governor of the Bank of Botswana, Remuseki. There are important lessons we can draw from other nations. Morocco, for example, has demonstrated what is possible through sustained and deliberate reform. By modernizing its tax system, broadening its tax base, digitalizing its administration, and strengthening compliance, Morocco has significantly improved its fiscal position, achieving a tax to GDP ratio of over 28%. 28%, from below where Botswana was. They were at between 12 and 13%. This is a great achievement, and this has enabled Morocco greater investment in development, in their development priorities. Their experience reminds us that transformation is not theoretical. It's achievable when reform is sustained, when reform is disciplined, when reform is anchored on clear national vision, our true north. For Botswana, tax reform is not an isolated exercise. It's central to Botswana's economic transformation program, which seeks to reposition Botswana and our economy towards a private sector-led growth, diversification, and resilience. And at the heart of this transformation lies a simple truth, that without a strong and efficient tax system, our ambitions will remain aspirations, simply aspirations. We are fully aware of concerns regarding the potential impact of these reforms on households and on businesses. These concerns are valid. These concerns deserve careful consideration. This is precisely why we are here today. And I repeat what I have already said. This Pitso is not a formality. It is an invitation to shape the future of our nation together. We are here to listen. What can be incorporated quickly for now will be incorporated. But you must remember, this is not a once-off reform. It's a multi-year reform process that takes us to where we want to be. Ladies and gentlemen, taxation is often spoken about as a technical matter, as a fiscal instrument, or as an obligation. But in truth, it is something far deeper than that, far deeper than that. It's a reflection of who we are as a people. is an expression of our shared commitment to one another. It is how we say, not in words but in action, that we are prepared to contribute to something greater than ourselves, that we are prepared to build not only for today, but for generations we may never even meet. A nation is not built by government alone. It is built by collective will. It is built by discipline. It is built by contribution and the contributions of its people. And so this moment, this conversation we are having is not about tax policy alone. It's about the kind of country we choose to become. I was hoping for an applause. Finally, if we believe in Botswana, where every child has access to quality education, where every citizen can rely on a functioning health system, where opportunity is not a privilege but a right, then we must also accept the responsibility that comes with building that Botswana. The future we aspire to will not be delivered to us. It will be built by us, each one of us, through our ideas, through our honesty, and through our willingness to contribute. And yes, through a tax system that we all believe in and that we all uphold. And as I move towards closing, let me say this. The current challenges we face present us with an opportunity, an immense opportunity, an opportunity to reform, an opportunity to build a stronger and more resilient Botswana together. Let us approach this dialogue with openness, with professionalism, and with a shared commitment to national development. Together we can shape a tax system that is fair, that is efficient, that is growth-oriented, and that is responsive to the needs of our people. And if we get this right, we will not only be reforming our tax system, we will be redefining the future of Botswana. We are here to listen. I'm truly encouraged by the overwhelming response to this Pitso. It signals alignment, it signals commitment, and it signals a shared commitment and a shared recognition that this conversation matters, truly matters. From the depth of my heart and the depth of my soul, I thank you for being here. I look forward to your insights. I look forward to your contributions. I look forward to your partnership as we walk this important journey together. And as I say, I look forward to listening to you. Pretend I am invisible. I will be listening, and I will listen, and I will always listen, because this country needs all of us to build it into that high-income Botswana, which is digitally enabled with a diversified economy in which every single citizen is employed, is empowered, and is fulfilled. May God bless you.
Thank you very much, the Acting President, for the comprehensive keynote address. The takeaway is tax reform, tax reform, tax reform, and it has a triad of objectives, which is simplification, modernization, and harmonization. And if you achieve these, they will lessen taxpayers' compliance costs and will also lessen the revenue service administrative costs. And the acting president says, even with these aims in mind, they still value consultation, and here today you will be invited to make representations on the law as they stand proposed. And he concluded acknowledging that even as you pay your taxes, compliance will also be driven by legitimacy and trust. In the army, they have what they call morale. I think they treasure it even more than their guns. Also in the tax sphere, we have what we call tax morale, which is the intrinsic willingness to comply by taxpayers, and that is driven by how good or how bad the taxes are used. With that, I will invite Mexi for a piece of a song as we await Serhamiti Radibi Michael. Mexi.
Selector. Next question.
Jasmatic music.
Kale Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up once again for the phenomenal Mexi Sudumedi for her exceptional performance. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in this next segment, we take a closer look at the overview of the bills aimed at deepening our understanding and gathering insights to help shape inclusive policies for all. Please help me join in welcoming the Acting Commissioner of Domestic Taxes from Botswana Unified Revenue Service, Ms. Sekhameti Radibe Michael, to give us an overview of the bills. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. The Acting President of the Republic of Botswana and the Minister of Finance, Ndaba Gaolathe, all dignitaries here present today, let me say all protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My job here today is to present the bills themselves, to kickstart the conversation why we are here. The review of the legislative framework for our revenue laws is something that we have been working on. And I'm glad to say today I don't come here by myself. I'm representing the policy and the legislative review team that are here present with me today, including the Director Tax Policy, Boipuso Hall. I want to also acknowledge the assistance that we have received from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, as we were doing this work. I also want to acknowledge the immense contributions that have come from the business community, the tax-paying community. Particularly, I want to acknowledge the contributions from Business Botswana, from BICA, and other stakeholders who continue to work with us on this. I also want to acknowledge the Taxation Review Committee that has also sanctioned that we continue with this project. I want to thank the speakers that have come before me because they have already stated the objectives for this review work, which is to modernize, harmonize, and consolidate the revenue laws. This is a three-package work. When we started, the idea was just to review and modernize the Income Tax Act, which is our main act through which we collect income taxes, and to also review the Value-Added Tax Act to ensure that these pieces of legislation, they are efficient and they are fit for purpose. We know that we are operating in a changing environment. And since the enactment of our laws, the world is moving. The ways of doing businesses continue to change. Hence the need to come back and review these laws. So that is what was driving this work. But as we were reviewing, we were also taking in some of the comments that were coming from the studies that Botswana has undergone, studies such as the ease of doing business, from which it was said that there are too many interactions, there are too many duplications when taxpayers are trying to comply with the revenue laws. That is why it was then decided that let us have a tax administration bill or act where we can then consolidate all the administrative and procedural laws to ensure that there is no duplication of efforts to reduce interactions with the taxpayers where need be. My job is a little bit complex today because my audience is varied. I have a homogeneous audience before me, but I want us to arrive together. So what I'll then do, I'll try not to be technical. Where necessary, I'll just headline what is coming from the different pieces of legislation. I'll only go deeper into what is coming out, where it's necessary to explain, because I don't want to lose any of us in this conversation. I'll go through what is coming out from the tax administration bill, what is coming out from the value-added tax, and what is coming out from the income tax. But then I'll just be summarizing, because in the 1.5 hours that I have been given, that we have to present, we can't touch on everything. But I want to say this project was not just it was not an amendment. It was a review exercise, which means that we have gone through each and every provision of the revenue laws. So a lot is coming out of this work. But today what we'll then highlight will be the salient points that are coming from here. And for the income tax, we have tried to structure the presentation in such a way to say what is coming out for the individual, what is coming out for corporate taxpayers, what is coming out for the mining sector, and what is coming out for international taxation or for non-resident taxpayers. So I hope I won't lose anyone during this presentation. I'll start with the tax administration bill. The tax administration bill is coming to harmonize. It's harmonizing all the administrative and provisional rules that are currently contained in the VAT Act. This means that when this work passes and we go forward, some of the administrative and provisional rules that we are using to see in these other pieces of legislation will no longer be there. We will now move them over to the tax admin bill. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to have any administrative or procedural rules in the VAT or in the income tax, because in some areas you can't harmonize this procedural rules. So where you can't, something is just specific to the VAT, you'll still find it in the VAT. Where something is just specific to the income tax, we will still find it in the income tax. The main issues that are coming from the tax bill, we are introducing a public tax ruling system. We are also proposing that there be registration of tax agents. The proposal is also to harmonize payment, filing, lodging of objections, dates, and proposal to introduce a tax tribunal. That is what is coming from this. In terms of harmonizing the provisions of the laws themselves, you may find that right now, if I was to give you an example, someone is given an opportunity after an assessment or interaction with the Commissioner General. If it's VAT, they have 30 days to lodge an objection. But if it's income tax, they have 60 days. So what we were then doing, we were just harmonizing to say, why not give a taxpayer 60 days to lodge their objection? Because when we come and audit, there may be instances where we do a comprehensive audit of all their income tax issues and their VAT issues. So we are harmonizing the times to say let them bring the objections at the same time. The other issues where we are harmonizing, another example will be in terms of record keeping, where when you look at the revenue laws, for VAT record keeping is 7 years, for income tax is 8 years. So we have harmonized the times to say, let the records be kept for 8 years. The other thing that we are introducing, as I have already said, is to introduce a public tax ruling system. Because with the modernization of the income tax, we are moving to, or rather the proposal is to move to self-assessment by taxpayers. This is where the taxpayers, as they are doing business, they are able to make decisions knowing how the Commissioner General will then come and treat this transaction. So this time around, we don't have a lot of efficiencies because before a business can do some transactions, they have to write to the Commissioner General. So the public ruling system will then assist because now it will compel the Commissioner General to publicize all tax rulings for the taxpayers to do self-application of the law. So those are the objectives of introducing a public ruling system in terms of which these rulings will be publicized. And the rulings being publicized, the rulings are also binding on the Commissioner General, which means that when a taxpayer now follows what they have seen in the public ruling, the Commissioner General cannot turn around and say, this is not how I interpret it. So that is what will be coming insofar as the public ruling system. The other proposed amendment will be to introduce a tax tribunal. Right now, the objections, or rather appeals, they are forwarded to the Ministry of Finance, where the ministry houses a board of adjudicators. So for purposes of more transparency and independence, the proposal is that let there be a tax tribunal that can deal with these matters timely, and let there be permanent representation where there is a sitting presiding officer, so that there are no delays in taking care of tax issues. We know that when justice delayed is justice denied. And for businesses, for tax purposes, where there is no clarity or finality of resolving a tax dispute, that impacts business decisions. The other proposal, or this one has already passed because it was prioritized in the past year, is where we are now moving on to introduction of electronic billing, where we are now compelling businesses to have some gadget which will then be interconnected with the revenue service system to allow the Commissioner General to receive real-time reporting of tax transactions. So that law was passed in the last year, and the Acting Commissioner General has already indicated that the Revenue Service is now working towards getting a solution so that each and every taxpayer will then be required to have a gadget or a solution of sorts. I want to assure the business community and all the taxpayers that the gadgets that are going to be used, they are going to be different, depending on the type of business, depending on the size of business, to ensure that this is not a costly exercise. Where the solution can be done through a cell phone, that is what will be done. Where it can be done remotely, where there is no internet or whatever, that is the solution that we want, because we don't want any taxpayer not to be able to have this connectivity so that the Commissioner General can then receive reports in real time. This proposal will reduce underreporting, It will reduce fabrication of invoicing. It will reduce loss of revenue. There is also a proposal in the tax admin to introduce a dispensation for voluntary disclosure by businesses, by taxpayers. We know that for one reason or the other, you may find that for many years, some business, they haven't been reporting quite right. But right now, the penalties are prohibitive. It's very difficult to then get taxpayers to come and disclose what has not been done right in the past years. So the proposal is now to introduce a voluntary disclosure mechanism through which taxpayers can now come forth, disclose what has not been done right in the past years, and then they will be given reduction in penalties. Another reform that is being proposed in the tax admin bill is the registration of tax agents. We know that taxpayers, they do business through the assistance of tax agents. I think for this one, we have borrowed a leaf from our customs counterparts who currently register their tax clearance agents. But there is no similar dispensation for domestic taxes. So now the proposal is that let tax representatives or tax agents be registered so that they can be regularized, so that there is protection for taxpayers where someone is masquerading as a tax agent and they don't do their books right. So we are trying to bring that protection to the taxpayers. Coming to the value-added tax, it's already been stated that the VAT, when it was first conceptualized, we were thinking of businesses coming here, but you were expecting to see the business somewhere around town. But that has since changed. We know that a business doesn't have to be here physically to be business in Botswana. So businesses or consumers are now able to buy products online. We have intangible products that can be bought online. You can buy your music, you can buy your books online from the comfort of your home without the taxman being any wiser. But even if the taxman was to be wiser, we can't really expect each and every taxpayer to come and register and self-report. Because strictly speaking, when you read your VAT Act right now, the VAT Act, it expects Sarah, after she has bought her book online, to come and report. But we know that that is impractical. The other consideration for bringing in, that is why we are now proposing that there be VAT for remote service. The other consideration for bringing in VAT on remote services is to bring equality to the playing field for all businesses. Because we know that if you were to buy similar products from businesses that are here at home, you will definitely pay your VAT. If you pay for your streaming, for your TV, you're paying for whatever it is that you are buying online, if you are doing that from a service provider that is here, there will be VAT charged. But if you are buying it from outside home and you are importing it from outside, there are no VAT consequences. But what does that mean really? It means that now we are giving competition to people that are outside. We are creating an import bias where instead of consumers buying products here at home, they will then choose to buy these products from abroad. So we are trying to align other jurisdictions that they have already gone ahead of us. I think we are one of the late adopters for this introduction of VAT on remote services. Another proposal that is being brought about, ladies and gentlemen, the VAT laws, they are very strict, especially when we are trying to deal with finality in taxation. Because when we give as a revenue service, coming from the revenue service, whatever we are reporting to government, we want to be saying to government that what you get is yours. You are not going to get someone coming back tomorrow claiming a refund. So the revenue laws, they are very strict when it comes to claiming of input VAT. We know how VAT works. VAT is in two parts. You have the VAT that is being charged by a business. We call it output VAT. We then have VAT that is charged to the business itself, because the business has to bring in, the business buys. They buy service, they buy stock, whatever it is that they're buying from other VAT registered persons. So the business, they also get charged the input VAT. But then the beauty about VAT is that VAT is not designed as a cost to businesses. So businesses are then allowed over time to come back and claim the input VAT, which is the VAT that they were charged when they were buying their own products. But there is a time limit for which they have to claim this input VAT, and currently that time is 4 months. In practice, that time has proved to be challenging when we look at the objections that we have been receiving from customers. We have come to realize that the 4-month period is very strict. Therefore, the proposal is that this period, let it be extended so that instead of being 4 months to allow for businesses to claim the input, that period is now 12 months. In reviewing the law, we were also we were finding ways of broadening the tax base. And we also want to promote equity. And as we were reviewing the laws, we realized that people or offices such as the deputy sheriff, they sell goods when they're executing their rates. So sales of goods and execution is done under the auspices of the deputy sheriff. But unlike the auctioneer charges VAT when they're selling. But your deputy sheriff does not. So the proposal is that let us afford equal treatment so that not only should the auctioneer be required to charge and bring VAT, let the deputy sheriff also be required. So that is the equality that we are bringing between auctioneers and deputy sheriffs. I'm going to skip this other one, but it's something that is good, but it's just technical to explain. Right now, when you are, but let me go in there, because maybe I've triggered someone's curiosity. VAT has trigger points to say at what time are you required to pay. So for instance, VAT, it will say, even when you have gone into an installment arrangement, we may say that the first deposit that you make, then you have to bring the whole VAT, notwithstanding that in your business arrangement, you were going to repay over time. So the proposal is that let us reverse that rule so that even as you pay over time, we then begin to collect the VAT incrementally, not necessarily incrementally, stage by stage, periodically, in accordance with the agreement that you have made. So that one, that's a good one. The other director of ceremony, Mr. Tsani, he's already laid the background for this one. To say VAT is, the VAT that we adopted as a country, it's a broad-based VAT system where we want to tax almost everything, if that was possible. So it's a broad-based VAT system. The advantage of a broad-based VAT system is that it doesn't put you under pressure to hike the rates. So when we first introduced our VAT, it's a broad-based VAT system. It means you then limit the exemptions that you give. You then limit the zero-rated items that you have. But you have to take care of scope creep and make sure that over time, this list does not get ballooned. Because the moment it becomes ballooned, it means that you have reduced your collection, you have reduced your base, you may now be compelled to increase the VAT rate itself. So when we as part of this exercise, we have reviewed zero-rated goods, because as a policy consideration, after you have set your base, you may also look into social issues. To say VAT is a tax by consumers, and it's a tax that cannot be avoided. Whatever you buy, you have to pay. Goods, services, but then considerations are being made. The government has made consideration to say, how do we cushion low-income households from the burden of VAT? So that is where you now see a zero-rated list. That is to accommodate low-income households, to make sure that basic foodstuffs that are required by households, they remain VAT neutral. That is why we have our VAT zero-rated list. But in reviewing the list, we realized that maybe over time, the list had ballooned. So that is the exercise that we did. So we have now dropped some items from the zero-rated list. That for a consumer, it will translate into you paying VAT for some of the things that maybe up until now we have not been paying. But I want to give an example of the items that, in our view, we were saying maybe these are non-essential food items, vegetables such as leeks, Brussels sprouts, globe artichokes, chico. These are vegetables. And I know for some of Botswana, we've never heard of these, but they were in our zero-rated list. Fruits such as persimmon, strawberries, at least we know strawberries, most of us, raspberries, or maybe I should speak for myself, dates. So these are some of the things that we are now saying, let us drop these from the list. And we now have a revised list. This list, it contains everything that we need for your wedding ceremony or for your everyday life. Yes, I think this list will do, in my view. But this Tax Pitso is for all of us to come in and say, are we in the right direction? So we will be listening to hear from you, are we in the right track? The first 5,000 liters of water is still there, still zero-rated. Prescription medicine still there. Baby diapers are still there. Sanitary pads, infant formula, they are still there. The other thing that we were reviewing for the VAT is just to look at our zero-rated and exemption list. For tax purposes, these lists, they mean something. For the consumer, it means that they don't pay. But for businesses and for government, it may mean something different. For instance, what you consider to be exempt is actually a cost to businesses. For instance, we had prescription drugs in our exemption list. So we are now proposing that let us remove these drugs, move them to the zero-rated list, because this is what will happen if we continue to exempt prescription drugs. Businesses that want to come here and manufacture prescription drugs will not be able to, because if they are dealing in an exempt commodity, it means they will not be allowed to register for VAT. It means they will not be allowed to claim for input. So having an item like this in a exemption list, it actually discourages manufacturers to come here. So the proposal is that let us move prescription drugs, move them to the zero-rated list, so that now businesses can come here and manufacture and set up. The same thing was done, I think, for tractors. So people that want to come here and do tractors, they can come here. Same thing was done for condoms. If there are any condom manufacturers or any such, they can come. The other one, the toughest one for us as a review team was this one, the treatment of private medical services. Currently, private medical services they're exempt. It means when we go there, you don't have to pay the 14%. But the question will be, what does that mean for private medical service providers? This means that we have removed them from the VAT register. This means that they are no longer able to claim input VAT. This means that providing private medical services has become costly. This means that we have given cash flow burdens to private medical services. So if that is the case, what will then happen to the consumer? The consumer will bear the cost one way or the other. So the reality of it is that maybe we should just realize that this is one of the items which we can't exempt. So the proposal is that there be restitution of the standard rate for provision of private medical services, which means that if this proposal passes, the next time we are going to bear VAT for provision of private medical services. The other thing is that if you keep the private medical service providers out of the VAT register, they will come and lobby. Because now when they are buying equipment, when they are buying laboratory equipment, when they are buying this and this, when they are paying for their services, they don't have the advantage of claiming these as input. Now they will come and lobby and they will come and say to the Minister of Finance, exempt our furniture, exempt the utilities that are consumed by private medical. So they will lobby for exemptions, and that will reduce the VAT base. I promised that I won't go technical. I think that should be as far as I go. The other thing, the acting President Ndaba Gaolathe has already mentioned, the last time we reviewed, coming to the income tax, the last time we reviewed it was 10 years ago. No, not rather 10 years. 1995, isn't that 30? But generally, the best practice is that you review this every 10 years and make sure it's up to par, because you want to meet evolving business demands. So the last review of your income tax was in 1995, and the piece of legislation is no longer user-friendly. So why were we reviewing it? We wanted to bring in some some elements of protecting our domestic base. Because internationally there are projects such as base erosion and profit shifting, and we participate in some of those engagements, and we were trying to close some of the loopholes to make sure that there is no base erosion for Botswana, because we are operating in an international sphere. Some of the modifications were suggestions from our partners, from IMF, from World Global Forum on Transparency, where we now want to have laws that will allow us to exchange information with other jurisdictions. Because we want to create a tax borderless frontiers where jurisdictions are able to exchange information, taxpayer information, so that for businesses that are not willing to comply voluntarily, we should be able, as tax administration the world over, to be able to say, these are the tax affairs of this customer when they are transacting here, these are the transactions when they are transacting in this jurisdiction. So we wanted to be able to accommodate some of those commitments where we are saying, as Botswana, we don't want to harbor people that don't pay taxes. We want to be able to share information on tax matters with other jurisdictions. So, coming back to individuals, what is coming out for individuals? The Minister and the Acting President has already stated, where we are introducing a small business taxation regime. Right now, when we are reading our laws, there is no clear segregation between big businesses and small businesses. So we are saying these requirements, they have the potential to overwhelm our taxpayers, because our record keeping is about 8 years. You do accrual accounting and so forth and so on. You have to track movement of stock. The accountants, they know it, opening balance, closing balance. You have to keep a track of depreciation accounts and so many things. So we are now proposing that there be a small business regime for individual taxpayers that are making turnover less than 1 million. And the main features that are coming for this regime, they are allowed to do cash accounting, they are allowed to do full deduction for their trading stock, they are allowed to expense depreciable assets outright, and then they are still taxed at the individual income tax marginal rate structure. The reason why it's a progressive structure, the first 48,000 is tax-free. So those are the proposed for individuals. The other thing is that we don't have self-withholding provisions within our laws, which means that for individuals that are working for diplomatic organizations and other organizations where internationally we cannot compel the employer to deduct pay as we earn and bring it here. For those employees, there is no system for pay as you earn. It means that at the end of the year, these employees, they usually owe a lot. So what we are trying to say is that let there be self-withholding that will allow them, just like others who are bringing pay as we earn through their employers, let them bring their pay as we earn monthly, so that at the end of the year, they don't have a huge tax bill to reckon with. So this modification, we believe, it will help individual taxpayers whose employers cannot withhold. It will help them to manage tax debt. We are also bringing something from mutual associations. The laws regarding taxation in mutual associations, Your mutual association will be like your mutual loan association, your burial societies. These associations, their laws, they are not very clear. Their laws are not harmonized. You may find that where some have registered maybe a trade and they are considered to be body corporates, they are required to pay taxes at the corporate tax rate. They are 22%, which could be prohibitive for associations such as this, where people are coming together and trying to better themselves. Because we know cooperative societies, some kids are mabele, some is for finance and so forth and so on. So the proposal are trying to promote the growth of this mutual association, to say, let them register properly, let them report, and then let them contribute modestly at 5%. And then, as usual, when they get their dividend payouts, those dividends will be tax-free. So that is the proposed improvement for treatment of mutual associations. For corporate taxpayers, at the beginning of the year, companies and corporate taxpayers, they are expected to estimate their tax payable for the year and then begin to pay by installments. It's 4 quarterly installments that they have to pay, and to maintain the integrity of the quarterly installment, the law compels them that they bring at least 80% of the tax payable for the year. Because if you open it, it's a quarterly installment system and there are no safeguards. It means a taxpayer can bring whatever they want. So the law then, it nudges them to say, bring at least 80%, and if you fall foul of this, then there will be interest or penalties. This has also proved to be challenging over time, so the proposal is to review this, to reduce it to a 75%. I think businesses should be able to welcome this one. And the other consideration for this one is that in the reckoning of what constitutes these quarterly installments, we are not going to be including capital gains from that equation. The other thing that is coming, I think Botswana have been calling for it, another proposal, if it passes, is that we encourage small businesses. Usually you find someone, they have a business, they want to take an asset, they want to take a plot and bring it as they're incorporating their business. So they want to transfer an individual asset into the business. Ordinarily, when you do that, you may encounter capital gains consequences. So now the proposal is that transfer of assets by an individual into their newly incorporated business, let it be tax neutral. So that is the proposal. Another proposal in line with this still, and bringing clarity also, is this treatment of disposal of assets between married spouses. Because it's not very clear, because when you are married, Mr. and Mrs. Michael, God forbid, owning, and something happens, owning and sharing an asset, and the court is now in settlement of the divorce, they're saying, let this spouse be the one that takes this house. The proposal is that let the law come out clear and say there are not capital gains there. It's also tax neutral. So I think this one is also good. And then coming to mining, there are several things that are being proposed for mining sector. First, let me say mining companies, except for diamond mining, this sector is subject to a variable income tax rate of up to 55%. So the ordinary corporate tax rate is 22%. But then for mining companies, because we know the ventures they go into can be very profitable when all things are equal. So they have a variable income tax rate that is intended to capture profitability. So it's up to 55%. Currently, this rate does not apply to diamond mining. So the proposal is that let this rate apply to diamond mining companies in which government has no shareholding. That is the proposal. And then when businesses, they buy assets, capital assets are expensive, and usually businesses, they will be allowed to claim capital allowances. But it's not a big bang claim, because if you were to do that, you are postponing you are basically postponing taxation for the Commissioner General. So it's an incentive of sorts. So for the mining industry, the proposal is that there be splitting, because mining phases are different. You have the prospecting stage of mining, where businesses, they're just coming in to prospect. They don't know whether they will find any mineral deposits. And we are saying this is cost intensive and it's a risk, it's a huge risk. And then there are mines that now the company is coming, we are sure of the deposit. So the suggestion is that let's allocate the allowance of capital allowances, recognizing the different risks. And we are saying for prospecting stage, let us maintain the accelerated depreciation so that it's 100% on the year of acquisition. But then the proposal is that for other stages, for development stages, let the allowances be given for a period of maximum of 10 years. So that is the proposal. We will be waiting to hear contributions from the mining sector regarding this one and their feedback. And then for international taxation, there are rules. There are rules that justify us taxing a non-resident entity, because we know we have multinational enterprises that are operating the world over. And over time, the world has come up with international taxation rules that will make sure that we don't double tax these companies, enterprises, but at the same time, we don't also allow double non-taxation, where an enterprise is not taxed anywhere in the world. But then there has to be justification for you to tax a non-resident company. So we create rules that will then allow us to tax. These are nexus. We are saying this company has some sort of linkage to my jurisdiction. So they are called permanent establishment rules. The other way of explaining it, you can say there is a company that does business in your jurisdiction, or there is a company that does business with your jurisdiction. So if it's with, it's just it means they don't have any rules there, they don't have a branch and so forth and so on. If it's in your jurisdiction, you mean there is some sort of nexus where I can say this is the business. So it's very important, as Botswana, as a capitally importing country, that we make sure that our permanent establishment rules, they are clear, because this is what then gives us right to be able to tax a non-resident a company. So we tax them when they have permanent establishments here. Otherwise, if they are just sourcing income from here, they don't have rules. That's why now our withholding tax system will then come in. So in this proposal, as we were reviewing, we realized that we don't have comprehensive permanent establishment rules. So the proposal is that let us have clearer permanent establishment rules. So the proposal is that, so the rules are there in the Income Tax Act that are now clarifying to say if a business is here for so many days, if it's a construction company is here for so much time, if they are bringing in personnel, they are not here, they have still created a permanent establishment. It means now they have to report for Botswana taxes, and then we can be able to tax them. The other component that goes along with this is source rules. To say where you source your income from Botswana, we as a non-resident, we have justification to taxing because that income is sourced here. So we have source rules. So the source rules, we have also reviewed them because we realized our source rules were very narrow. They were just limited to your management and consultancy fee, your interest, and so forth and so on. That is why we have now proposed let the source rules be very comprehensive. And as part of that exercise, you will come to understand we have also introduced withholding taxes, or proposing rather, withholding taxes for international air transport is still to protect the domestic base of Botswana. To say this airline is doing business here, and we are also proposing withholding taxes where an insurer, they want to reinsure. They are taking the reinsurance premiums outside of the jurisdiction. So that is part of expanding the domestic tax base. For the international air transport withholding taxes, this will happen where we don't have a double tax avoidance agreement with the country from which this airline comes. But then if there is reciprocity or there is a double tax avoidance agreement in place, each country, they will tax their own airline. We will tax our own Botswana, our own Air Botswana, and the other jurisdiction will tax their own airline as well. That is the proposal. The other proposal is that we bring in a branch profits taxation for non-resident companies. You will know that we have a higher rate of taxation for non-residents. Ordinary rate of taxation for Botswana for corporates is 22%, but for non-residents it's 30%. We have a higher rate of 30%. Why do we have these two rates? We were trying to equalize between a branch and a subsidiary. There are two ways in which a business can come and have presence in a jurisdiction. They can set up a branch here through which they can operate, or they can do a subsidiary. If it's a subsidiary, it's a separate entity. We are able to tax the subsidiary at corporate tax level, and then when the subsidiary, they are paying out dividend to the head office or to the shareholder, we are able to collect withholding taxes on dividend. But then if you have a branch and the mother are the same, so you are not able to tax them at 2 points. Hence the 30%. So it was intended as an equalizer between branches and subsidiaries. So now the proposal is that let there be equalization. Let all non-resident taxpayers pay income tax at 22%, but then how do we accommodate for the lack of dividend withholding. Now we are proposing for a deemed dividend. That is the proposal. So that you still have your two-step taxation. So the same way you would do if it was just a subsidiary. Transfer pricing rules, we introduced transfer pricing regulations in, I think it was in 2018. I'm checking to see if my team they are saying yes. So we've had feedback from taxpayers. I think one of the challenges was where the law was requiring with every submission of a return, there be submission of transfer pricing documentation. So that was a huge outcry from businesses to say this is onerous, this is costly. So right now, the proposal is that we review these requirements and then we specify the disclosures that will then come with the return. That will allow the Commissioner General to be able to do risk assessment even before we receive the comprehensive transfer pricing documentation. This will come in the regulations. The regulations have not yet been completed. Once they are completed, we'll then share them so that we can then have inputs from businesses. The plan is to have these three bills come together because they have to commence together because they are dependent on the Tax Administration Act, which now houses the admin and procedural rules. So for this, the plan is to have a three-pack going before Parliament, if it passes, and then it commences at the same time. Usually, if it was the VAT alone, you can commence VAT amendments at any point in time. But income tax amendments, they are easier when you commence them from the 1st of July with the tax year. So our planned commencement date is very ambitious. We are planning to commence these three bills from the 1st of July 2026. And then we will be providing transitional rules to guide our taxpayers. The law allows us, for if there are any transitional rules, the drafts, we can accommodate those through regulations. Yes, to make sure if there is anything, be it carry forward, capital allowances, whatever, those will be accommodated through the transitional rules. And we are looking forward as from input from the business community, who are the ones that practicalize the law, to say we need a transitional rule for this. How are we taking care of this? How are we moving from the current into the new? The Commissioner General has already said what lies in store for the Revenue Service is updating, reviewing of internal processes, system enhancements, training of officers, taxpayer education, and we continue to do stakeholder training for compliance purposes. And for the other pieces of legislation that has already passed through Parliament, especially the VAT on remote services. For those bills, we are also considering having a phased rollout. We are mindful that we are still, for issues such as your inbound tourism, we are still engaging with stakeholders, both here at home and externally. So where we are able to do a phased approach for the components of that law, that is very clear and does not depend on further engagements. That is what we are planning to do. And then for e-invoicing, taxpayers will be given ample time to go and procure. And there'll be on the types of devices that will be used. With that, I thank you. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was an exceptional overview of the bills. I think it was fully packed. And if you would like to further familiarize yourself with them, please access them on the official BURS website. Now we have come to the time where we hear your voices. As we're moving into the open discussion, we're inviting contributions. We want to hear your perspectives. We want to hear your lived experiences and your proposals. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you strictly 90 seconds to bring your result-driven solutions across. Let's be reminded to be effective and economic with our time so that we can be able to engage as many of you as we can. There'll be roving mics around to identify those who want to give the solution-driven answers.
And Sarah and your team, you'll be listening attentively to annotate the suggestions and questions.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Protocol highly observed. My names for the record are Kizo Tumisang Sekotwe, a third-year economics student at the University of Botswana and Vice President of the University of Botswana Economic Society. So my contribution to you, Acting Commissioner, is that you'll agree with me that this country has amazing talent, right? So in light to moving towards electronic self-reporting, could a hackathon be a viable way of harnessing young talent to develop cost-effective, implementable solutions to support this transition? And if so, when are you willing to do it? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor and fellow dignitaries. My names are Piwa Bosenogile, representing the Sports Commission. Mine is a contribution because I come from an industry that is overlooked, an industry that lives from handouts and maybe the government subvention. Yet this industry has an enormous potential to contribute to the economy in employment creation, even the GDP. But this industry does not have any preferential incentives like other industries, manufacturing, agriculture, etc., etc. So my call today is to invite colleagues to maybe agree with me that we establish a sports development fund. This fund will not be increasing the tax burden on the taxpayers. Already there are some small where it can get the seed capital, for example, the Gambling Authority. You may agree with me that the most of the gambling activity is with sports. But in the Gambling Act, we are not listed as a beneficiary from the profits that the gambling industry makes. So maybe if we can into the Sports Development Fund, and one of the contributors is the Gambling Authority. And under the income tax, maybe a direct income tax contribution in terms of tax credits to taxpayers. For example, if I pay, my pay as you earn is 10,000 annually. If I can contribute to that sports development fund, I get a tax credit to reduce my tax burden. That will go a long way in developing sports in terms of talent identification, infrastructure development, and also improving sports from being a recreational thing to a profession that one can earn a living. But lastly, my contribution to the VAT exemptions, to say maybe we have some specialized sport equipment that may be included in your VAT exemption list. The Paralympics, you always see the Paralympics equipment that is used. It's not manufactured in Botswana, most of it, and we buy it very expensive. Recently, we were renovating our sports track, very expensive to undertake the development. So that's my contribute, Your Honor and fellow colleagues. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Tiamo Badisang. Mine is a question. Registration of tax agents. So when registering the tax agent, is it an individual or a company? What is the qualification process? And also the fees, are there any fees that are going to be connected to being registered as a tax agent? And maybe I can suggest that you can provide something similar to the BICA requirements, the people registered under BICA as members as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The presence of the acting president is recognized and all dignitaries here. I am Boipuso Hall, the acting director from the Ministry of Sport and Arts. We need to indicate that the guidance that is trying to incentivize the companies to invest in sport is just through the guidance of the Education Institution and Sports Bodies Section 51.2 of the Income Tax of 1995. And you realize that it leaves out the arts sector and creative sector. So we will call for the review of this act to strengthen it and include the arts component within it. Because as we want to diversify the economy, we have indicated that we have prioritized sport as a key sector towards commercialization and diversification. And for us to lessen burden on government, it is a key that we incentivize companies to bring them in sport and the arts sector so that they assist in terms of private partnerships to grow this sector beyond where we are. We are also calling for strengthening of capacity building of our clientele base. They are spread across the country. Let's increase our reach so that we improve their understanding and compliance to taxation as we look to improve in terms of in that area. And finally, a consideration should be made that those who need to donate, who want to donate to, it should come out very clearly within the law that those who are willing to support these two industries, the sport and arts sectors, with donations of relevant requisite equipment from different areas are tax-free. This will assist us in building structures such as my colleague was saying from the National Commission that it has been very expensive to build infrastructure in Botswana. So if we incentive or we make tax-free contributions of those who are donating to us, I think that that will assist a bit. Thank you.
Thank you for the contributions made so far. So I don't know if Sarah and team, you have immediate reactions to comments made, or if you would indicate that some are candidate for further reflection on, if you don't have immediate answers to them. I heard some comments, some because of where I'm seated, I could hardly hear, but I got Sports Commission contribution clearly. And then also inquiries on tax agents, what is the criterion, are there any pre-qualification standards to be set?
Hi, Mr. Tani. Sorry, one last question. Sorry, I wasn't aware that the question and answer session is done. I think my question is more for Sarah. I know she mentioned that there will be transitional rules and regulations that will be published, but just to see if we could get some kind of confirmation for entities, particularly with December year ends or year ends that don't fall within the June tax year, transactions that happened before the ITB comes into effect. Would this be assessed under the new ITB? That's a little bit of, I think, an issue at the moment with a lot of businesses. So while the rates, I understand, will be in the subsequent tax year, there's a lot of transactions happening for businesses prior to the commencement of the ITB. Thank you.
Thank you, Naledi. So I think we would take the contributions in portions. If I exercise my discretion, we might have another round of contributions. So at this point, I think the responsible agents can respond where they can, including the acting president. Thank you.
Yeah, please be seated. Well, I think I'm home now, so please be comfortable. I'm going to leave some questions to Ausiha. I was listening to her carefully. There's a part where she mentioned the thing about what happens if people were to divorce. And then she says, God forbid, it doesn't happen to her family. I just want to add to that, God forbid, Ausiha. Rekizo, thank you very much for your contribution. And your question is whether the BRS or the Botswana government system in general is prepared, is willing to have a form of hackathon as part of, finding solutions, ready-made solution, homegrown solutions for digitalizing the tax system. Fortunately, the CEO of the Innovation Hub is around, and let me just say that Innovation Hub has already started that, not specifically for tax, but there is a big conversation. They've been having hackathons, but we are looking at expanding that and having that embedded in our government system as part of the way of indigenizing and having our own people, particularly young people, provide solutions. And as a tangible way of progressing this, We are partnering with other countries who have really developed that system, because it's an ecosystem that has to be developed. And we are partnering specifically and collaborating specifically with Georgia. So that's what you are asking for is welcome. It is what we are trying to do, but in this case, you are specific to whether BRS is doing it. I don't know if BRS is doing it, but I do know that they already have some solutions that they are looking to, which they can talk to. But as I said, this is a multi-year process and reform. It's not once off, so there will be many things to reform, to refine, to perfect, and we welcome your suggestion. Re Usenogile, the sportsman, he spoke very eloquently about how them as sports people are living like destitutes in a land of plenty, and how the time has come to take sports development seriously. And his first suggestion is that we set up what he calls a sports development fund. And he suggests further that this sports development fund has a natural seed capital provider in the form of the gambling revenues. He's also suggesting that the government system introduce tax credits if they are not already there. He's suggesting that they need to be more significant and more pointed, and the same tax credits for specialized sports equipment. So again, to you, Reo Senogile, we welcome those suggestions over and above what's already in place. Maybe to say a little bit about the issues here. There is an ongoing process now to relook. The government is reviewing all the satellite special funds, what are called specialized funds. And I know that in those specialized funds, we don't have a sport development fund per se. So we will look at that suggestion. We have in the BETP, we have what the nation has agreed should be the 6 prioritized economic sectors. And these, sports and arts and tourism, are one of the 6 prioritized sectors. So exactly because the whole country has agreed that this should be one of the priorities, there's a whole raft of things that we are going to be doing. And you are suggesting that we look at the tech side again. I'm sure that we will be looking at that. So we will look at that, and specifically we will look at a sports development fund. So they obviously are competing. Competitors for the gambling, including the healthcare, but we will see what can be done. There's a lady who, when she started speaking, the mic was off, but her question, This is a question of on registration of tax agents, and she had suggestions about how that can be done. For instance, perhaps they should be members of BICA, but she has a question that I think you'll be able to answer. Re Hudisamang, I think you are reinforcing what has been said, that let us be more specific and more generous on credits for both sports and arts. So we embrace the proposal. We will see what can be done. I know there is ongoing work, but we will see specifically in terms of the tax framework what will be done. And I think the one by Ms. Naledi here, Ms. Naledi Lepile, is yours, around publication of rules. For now, I'll be with you. I promised that we are here to listen, and this is exactly what we are doing. And as you can see, I'm not doing anything here, but acknowledging that we have listened, and we will take action on what is possible. What is immediate, what we can do immediately, we will do. This is a promise. But what needs time, it will take time, we will do it. As I said, it's not a once and for all reform, it's a multi-year reform. I'm not going anywhere, just continue suggesting, and we will. Ausera, where are you? Or any of your colleagues?
Oh, thank you very much for the contributions thus far. On the issue of registration of tax agents, we welcome the process, the contribution rather, where the question was to say what will be the qualification process. And in terms of the thinking was that we are going to have regulations. And as part of that work, I think in the past in our discussions with BICA, we had already agreed, or we will work alongside BICA to clearly lay down the requirements for regularization, tax agents. That may then, it may include affiliation to BICA and so forth and so on, so that when there are issues, then we can count on BICA to be the ones that can assist us. So regulations are coming, and you will be part of the process. And the other thing that we have noted here, the guidelines on the incentives that are applicable to sports and to education, where the contribution from the floor was to say, the guidelines, they've long been in place. Maybe they are not very clear. Maybe we don't necessarily market them. We agree. As we will be reviewing the law, let us also look at the guidelines. Let us take the guidelines so that even people that are allowed to contribute, because in terms of the law, The law promotes donations to sports institutions, donations to educational institutions, health institutions, and other institutions that take care of the disabled. But I think what we must now do is to educate the public more, so that these institutions, then they are able to receive these donations, because those institutions that are making contributions to sports and to health, those are recognized for tax purposes. When you contribute, then that's an allowable deduction. But the point is also noted where he was saying the guidelines, maybe they are cake. At the time we were thinking sports, and we have forgotten the creative arts or things like that. So we welcome the suggestions, and we are saying from the sports institutions, let us bring something for the director tax policy to be able to consider. The other one, I will leave it to Itu, specialized equipment. But the point is noted. I thought there was something in the law, but we'll look at it. We will check, we have noted it, and we'll see how far does that go. And then on the transitional provisions, I'll put Tepo Mokoti on the spot, or Mr. T, to say something about the transitional rules. Because the transition is not going to be a big bang, because there are some things that are that people, banally tax years that they have currently, and we have to make sure some have substituted tax years and so forth. So they have to be transitioned properly. So the transition rules are there. It's just that we haven't really unpacked them. But our advice will be, during this period, let us look at them, and if we think they are not adequate, let us make suggestions. And where we need clarity or assurance, then we'll be able to provide. It's just that I don't want to put the team on the spot. But team, are you comfortable answering transitional provisions?
Nane ke batla go tlatsa mo go ya specialized equipment. Ne ke re ka re the third schedule already caterela goods for welfare and charitable, and if it's wheelchairs or specialized equipment, they are fall under that. The current act and the upcoming provisions, upcoming law, the third schedule higher change of tata in that regard. So the specialized equipment is in the catering. So how I change? Thank you.
Thank you. Just to add on the one on transitional rules, the bill as it is, or the law as it is, it provides for transitional rules to say that the law that will be repealed. The provisions of the law that will be repealed will continue to apply until the end of the reporting period for the tax year, before they now transition to the new law. But I think we in some cases will develop the regulations or the rules to guide the taxpayers on how to transition to the new law. Thank you.
Thank you for the reactions. As I was standing here, I was wondering if I also have entitlement to make comments or suggestions. I was wondering if I could say, could we have concessionary rate for tax collectors? But then I remembered our founding Commissioner General, the quintessential taxman, Mr. Freddie Modise. He would have said to me, "Are you out of your mind?" So having said that, I will take this opportunity to invite additional comments and suggestions. And the hands are there on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator, and I recognize the minister and everybody here present. Kibidwa Kasta ke bereka ko Bank of Botswana. Ko Bank of Botswana moderator o ka lebella our annual reports from 2022, 2023, 2024. Our theme chapters need to focus on more tax, particularly about broadening the tax base so that we reduce dependence on mineral revenues. Mo Botswana, I think, like any other country, so we have a narrow tax base, mostly concentrated on the minerals. But as the minister has said, that is fading. And I'm happy that we are trying to broaden the tax base. If you look at our annual report year 2024, we talked about leveraging digitalization to enhance tax collection, adoption of digital payments and fintech that can improve transaction traceability, that will help the tax authorities to capture previously untaxed economic activity. I think it's only leadership tse di ganang go swipe kana di encourage gore ba tsaye cash gore ba ska ba duela lekgetho. We need to formalize the taxation of the informal economy, that digital financial services, mobile money, e-wallets, those can bring informal businesses into the formal system, and that could help expand our tax base. As already indicated, we need to improve efficiency of tax administration, that real-time payment systems that are available can reduce transaction costs and enhance compliance and monitoring capability. We need to support e-commerce taxation, and the growth of digital trade implies a need to adapt our tax systems to capture revenue from online and cross-border transactions, as the minister has already indicated. So if we do these things, moderator, we should be able to broaden our tax base and reduce dependence on mineral revenues. But we also need to double up efforts for tax collection. Colleagues who are in tourism will kill me if I say we are not collecting enough from tourism. But even in this room, Minister, 60% of us people in this room, the levies at the council. Me council gona effort to collect, other than to always waste stationery every year to write to us and say your debt to the council ya di levy ke bokan. That's all they do. Gona any collection effort. So we need to improve on that. Thank you very much.
There's a hand there. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I see to stand? Okay, he says I'm fine. My name is Koza, surnamed Mapotu. I'm coming from Francistown. Just a few things. One of them has already been taken by the director of Bank of Botswana. Okay. The case of businesses that are intentionally refusing to invoice and they want to just exchange goods for cash over the counter and there is basically nothing. I don't know why and how this has gone for this long, being perpetrated with impunity. I want to believe that we all know that there are such businesses and they basically are raking in a lot of money. If they are not here in Gaborone, there are a lot of them in Francistown. So that is one of the things that we seriously have got to look into because I want to believe that nobody can come into our country and be, particularly those that are coming from outside, and be above the law. So that is one of the leakages that we can look into and, to plug. The other one that I wanted just to make a comment on is the extension of the claim of input tax, VAT, because it has been a thorny issue. So for this one, I am saying thumbs up to you people that have brought in this one, that it be allowed to be claimed in 12 months, because a lot of input tax was otherwise being put aside. When you can skip an invoice, and sometimes it's a very, very big invoice, and then you are not allowed after the next period to put it in. So I think the other one that I want to speak to, the issue of having to retain records, accounting records for 8 years. For me, that is very, very impracticable. It is very, very difficult as a business to implement. I can't understand why that is the case. I don't understand why we are actually taking it and you are saying let's peg it to eight years. I would have thought we would say let's reduce. Why? Because if you're looking at businesses, just 1 year, 2 years of those files, you need a big space. And that comes at a cost. If you're going to tell me, let's put them electronically, still, you're asking somebody who may not be having the capacity to store that electronically to so do. So who is it working for, this one? Is it working for the tax administration? If yes, how? More than 4 years is too much. Businesses don't have that kind of storage. So I'm pleading with you that we re-look into this one. Ke a leboga.
Good morning, good day, and protocol observed. My name is Tumelo Kwape. I'm a legal practitioner based in Botswana, and I specialize in corporate law and tax. I know when people speak about corporate law, they think of millions. But there's a particular provision that Mem Michael spoke about regarding corporate rollover reliefs. So, Ka Muthisata Utuna na buile ka kgang yone ya BTEP, and also encouraging industrialization in Botswana. I can see that if I look at Section 7 of the Income Tax Act, it specifically says that this corporate rollover relief will only apply if the same Botswana who is transferring the property into a PTY Ltd, what we call corporatization, still remains 100% shareholder in that same company. So looking at this and reconciling with our vision to industrialize, do we think I do agree that is a good policy in the right direction, but would it help an ordinary Botswana more if you can reduce the post threshold of 100% to maybe, I don't know, 70%, but also internationally, we have seen transactions such as asset for share, rollover reliefs where the post-shareholding is limited to 10%. This is specifically to encourage corporate financing in the form of equity. You can imagine if a Botswana owns a farm and they want to transfer it into a company and in its effort to corporatize, they are required to be also 100% post-corporatization. And you can imagine when that Botswana wants to invite an investor to contribute some capital or skill in exchange for equity. So in that way, the whole corporate rollover relief won't be now beneficial to that Botswana, because post-transaction, if, for example, they offer 30% equity to that investor, post-transaction, that Botswana won't be 100% shareholder, and the whole CGT rollover relief acquisition at cost won't be applicable to that particular individual. I also want to particularly ask the following provision that speaks to intra-transfer between group companies. Why is it specifically limited to 100% of subsidiaries? Can we maybe have a look at a situation whereby it's a group of companies which doesn't really have 100% shareholding in the subsidiary? Don't you think somehow our post-transfer rules are a bit on a high side, looking at what other countries are doing? Like South Africa, we have a group of companies rollover reliefs apply when the other company or the subsidiary, that the group, the controlling company holds 70% in the subsidiary. That is also to encourage corporate financing. Thank you very much.